Good morning, Blair Academy. Before we get to the gratitude, I must thank the people that made this final chapel possible. Thank you to a number of faculty and students for the support and input after listening to this speech upwards of 10 times. Also, thank you to Max Kaplan, Haven Donovan, and Batuli Kamara for giving this speech on this very date the past 3 years. While I, unlike those three, will not be playing NCAA sports in college or stand at over 6 feet tall, I want to extend my personal thanks for setting a precedent I'm honored to be able to follow. Finally, thank you to the authors of this speech. Many of you, directly or indirectly, shaped and penned this speech with the gratitude I've heard from you over the 4 years I've spent with you. The speech is a compilation, a montage of your words, your stories, and your gratitude. So without further ado, welcome to the Gratitude Chapel of 2015. Getting through Blair is a lot like riding a bicycle. The only difference is that you forget how to ride the bicycle every other week and you fall over a lot. But you somehow learn how to do it again. Sometimes you balance for a long time, sometimes you only make it for a few inches, but you always manage to get back up. Sometimes the crash is harder than others, but since no one is stopping to wait for us, we have to get back up. The reason we're able to keep riding are the people around us. As much as we would like to keep the credit for ourselves, it would be almost ludicrous to say that we made it through Blair alone. Over my 4 years here, I've asked a number of people why they chose to attend Blair. The answers are so varied, it's quite hard to recap, because the real answer I often got was not why they attended, but why they stayed. Why, after the failed test, the rejection, the disastrous report card, the lost election, the class we could never master, the drama. The list of grievances is never short, but the answer lies in the people around us. The advisors, the teachers, the coaches, the friends. Because of this, it is of the utmost importance that we take the time out of this last week together as a community and give thanks to those who deserve it. In a couple of minutes, all of you will have the opportunity to stand up and thank someone. Naturally, these responses will be both lighthearted and serious, but before we get to us, we have to thank some other people first. People that have worked so tirelessly that we haven't even really noticed. The following shout-outs are compilations of direct quotes from friends and classmates, and my own words. While some will be longer than others, the level of gratitude for each one of these figures in our community is equivalent, and it's an honor to thank them here today. In 2011, the candy jar that sat on top of Mrs. Van Vliet's desk was emptied by a student. The crime, both cruel and disappointing, caused the candy to disappear completely from daily distribution. Locke girls, being as distressed and sugar-driven as always, put together a thank you/apology poster for Mrs. Van Vliet to make up for the incident and to get the candy back as soon as possible. However, many of the girls in Locke didn't actually know who Mrs. Van Vliet was. So when the prefects entered with the poster and a Sharpie for my roommate and I to sign, I asked, "Who is Mrs. Van Vliet?" Without blinking an eye, the prefect looked at me and said, "The greatest woman on earth." And to think I thought she was joking. As every international student or New York City resident knows, Mrs. Van Vliet has spent more time booking travel arrangements for us than any of us have, and it is so well executed that we hardly notice. Along with many of the people I'm mentioning today, her job is mostly thankless, but her devotion to the school and its students is completely unparalleled. Thank you. Before I continue, I think it's important to thank our families at Blair. Not our real families, since all of us have varying degrees of presence, with some of them living as close as Blairstown or Hardwick, and others as far as China. But our real parents made a decision to put us here, and in doing so, entrusted us into the care of other people. Without parents, we found new families in our home of Blair. Some of us only needed a mom, someone to tell us that everything was going to be okay, but to push us to our limits, or to give us baked goods. Others needed new siblings, friends that we could trust with our lives, and will remain as close to us as any blood relative as we move on from Blair. When we arrived, many of us are only 14, or 13 if you're Nisha Gupta. But at that age, it's difficult to navigate the difficult waters of high school without a family to go home to after classes. In preparation for this speech, I asked a number of students who the assumed family members were to us. To the Browses and the Sykeses, I hope you know that there are so many people here who love and care about you as much as you love and care about them, which is so much. You each may have your own children, but you have countless people who consider you their adoptive parents. And this place is very lucky to have you. Miss Matskin, at this point, I'm sure you're used to people calling you Mom, but I'm obliged to thank you for the parenting you've done for me. Thank you for being proof that someone always cares how you're doing, even if you don't want them to. To the friends and prefects, words could never suffice in gratitude for what you've done for us. Occasionally, we meet people who become our friends, but other times we meet people who become our siblings. Your support is what keeps us going, and while you may not thank your best friend for being your best friend every day, I sincerely hope that everyone takes a moment to thank these people for becoming a part of your family. Another role of family is security. With Blair as a home, we not only depend on it to be safe, but to completely not fall apart. So, maintenance, security, housekeeping, and dining hall staff, thank you for the thankless jobs you do every day. No amount of thank you notes can fill the gap we create for ourselves when we forget to thank you for unlocking Weber, or when we forget to clean up our own messes. But know that your work is greatly appreciated. If there's anything I learned on the tech crew or in Focus, it's that if you're doing a good job, no one will notice that you're doing the job at all. You're only noticed if you make a mistake. So thank you for being so impeccable for what you do. Blair has always felt safe. And they're actually here today, so let's give them a round. Speaking of safe, when you hear the emergency siren, you must run, not walk, to the nearest shelter. Mr. Bacon, over the summer before freshman year, you emailed me asking if I wanted to take freshman cycle. When I responded with no and informed you I would be in the orchestra, you replied with only 3 words: music is cooler. Intrigued by your surprisingly relaxed attitude with a student you hadn't met, or the fact that your email was Bacon's, you made me feel very welcome, and I'm grateful. But it isn't just me. Almost everyone I talked to was so amazed at how many school meeting announcements you were able to pack into a single school year. But in all seriousness, your devotion to the safety and well-beings of the students at this school is admirable. Whether you like it or not, you'll always have a place at Blair, whether that's in our memory, our academic integrity, or our thoughts whenever we hear a siren. With all this in mind, however, we can't pretend like we didn't have grievances. It's as much human nature to complain about situations we're in for extended periods of time as it is to sneeze or go to sleep at night. For most of us, the grievances and complaints we have expanded from the small situations that they once were at their beginnings into much bigger deals than they should be. And it's hard not to be dramatic when living in the bubble, so it can cloud our time. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things about Blair that I will not miss. While family-style dinner taught me discipline and how to wear the bare minimum of formal attire after late commitments, it will not be a practice I long for in future academic situations. I won't miss sign-in co-ed viz rules, dress codes, or arguing whether leggings or pants or not. This being said, there is one huge piece of Blair that I will miss, and that is the people. To the replacement families, the ones who made this place home, the teachers that changed our lives, the friends that became our siblings, the significant others, the coaches, the housemasters, the advisors. We do not show enough gratitude to you, and with graduation one very short week away, we don't have too much longer to take that opportunity. So before I turn it over to the audience to take that opportunity, I want to leave you with a benediction from the Reverend Diane Burke. Clearly, one of the major obstacles to our experience of gratitude is the habit we have of sleepwalking through life. The truth is that we are never lacking for blessings in our lives, but we are often lacking in awareness and recognition of them. So let us take our time to offer our gratitude. Thank you.